welcome to the third review of the evening. File Under Kingdom. File Under Kingdom is a mix of city builder, puzzle game, and interactive story. How you build the kingdom will alter events and or influence the choices of its leaders. Use a variety of buildings to satisfy the kingdom's needs. See if you have what it takes to be the king's new royal planner. Right, so this game was given to the Gallics, and since you're finally here, take it away.
So, okay, for this game, as you can see from the thing, you are given, first off, even with my explanation, you're going to want to play the tutorial, which it does give you a tutorial, though it's optional.
Mm-hmm.
You are given a map of the kingdom of which you can build things on, made up of squares of 4x4 squares, basically. You will be given one with a castle on it, and then one or more with strongholds on them, which the strongholds must be connected to the castle by roads. And then you have to fulfill the needs of the kingdom with regards to food, resources, and services, which you do by building windmills, windmills, fenced-in fields, logging camps, docks, mines, hunting fields, houses, churches, and what the last one was. Oh, and watchtowers, which is figures that's one I forget, since that's one of the ones I had a hard time keeping track of, or remembering to use during the actual game. Which, when you're doing it, the stamps for those things are color coded for which thing they sort of do, but they also have different interactions with each other. Like, mines have to be built near a mountain, docks have to be built next to a water area, and the water area, if you build a dock in line with a lighthouse, then a path to lighthouses in the same row or file will be treated as being able to have the same road. Windmills get better next to volcanoes, but windmills and hunting grounds need to have open space next to them. Houses are better if they're next to other houses, and churches are better if they're near houses. Guard towers need to be near something. Each piece has a requirement. And at the start, a lot of the time, the fields you need, the squares you need to do are not connected. The squares you need to connect are not, like, literally there are open spaces of map. So you need to purchase map squares with a basic allotment of money to fill in the paths. And the only way of getting money is by selling an existing map square, of which you can't sell the castle or any of the ones with the towers on them. And you sell them by basically building buildings on them that build resources, and then selling it, and then the more different kinds of resource come from the thing, the more it's worth. It's kind of complicated, and I'll be honest, when I tried to do I enjoyed the tutorial and a little bit of the free play, but when I tried to do the actual campaign, I had a hard time progressing, just because I had a little bit of decision paralysis. And my two biggest criticisms of this game are no undo button, which the dev has said is, like, intentional. So if you mess up or something, you have to restart the entire map. And when you do that, the buyable plots of land are re-rolled, so you might not even be able to replicate the thing you had. Though the plots of land are generally come in 3 types: $15, which is water; $40, which has 2 resource things on it, which could be a volcano or a forest or a mine or a graveyard, which makes the churches that are adjacent to it better; and $20 ones that have just 1 resource node on them. And you can't, there are some things you can build over other things, like you can build roads through empty fields that were created by a windmill or hunting ground, but otherwise you can't. There's no way to like tear down stuff that you've already built. So if you realize you've messed up, you pretty much are going to have to start the thing over. So aside from changing the layout you have to do and the scores you need to meet for each stage, the biggest story mode element is that in between things, since you are playing as the royal planner, excuse me, I've been having a little bit of a throat tickle this evening. So you get dialogue between other kingdom officials who are talking about stuff that's going on in the kingdom that then give you hints about what you might need to pay attention to in the next phase, such as they might mention that they need to have security or appeal to the people's faith, which means in those cases you'd want to have more of your services thing come from watchtowers and churches rather than houses. And then based on that, whether you do that or not, apparently it changes some of the progression of the game beyond that stage. It does give you the things you need to beat to pass the stage, but this game does have a silver, gold, and then probably platinum or bronze ranking scheme based on how many buildings you used, how many plots of land you used, how much money you have left over. And the actual values you need to aim for a good rank on that are hidden information until you've beaten the stage, which was also a little bit annoying because, I mean, theoretically, there's very few limitations on this aside from where you can put plots of land. There's nothing in principle stopping you. It doesn't cost anything to build buildings, so you can very easily just buy a plot of land, fill it up with all the best stuff, sell it, use that to buy a couple of more plots of land, put one of them in a position you don't need to pass through to make the connection to between the castle and the stronghold, and fill that up and sell it. You can have huge amounts of money, but obviously if you do that, your score for that map is not going to be good because you've bought more terrain and built more buildings than it was expecting. So it might be frustrating to gold in that way because it doesn't actually tell you the criteria. I don't know. The controls are also a little bit weird in some cases because it's all pick up the stamp, click with it, and then you have to put it back before you can do anything else. But apparently this is the second version of it, and the first version of it was you have to left click and hold a stamp to pick it up and move it, and then right click while holding left click to stamp with it. So this is definitely better than that. The music is pretty basic, medieval sounding, kind of ambient music. It's decent enough, but I think there's only one. I only heard one track, and that was. It got a little bit much after a while. It's also the default volume was kind of loud, at least for me. So yeah, there are a lot there. The game system that it gives you is very complex, and there's a lot of fun ways that you can try to work around with it, but it can be difficult to get right, and it's not like if you mess up, it's frustrating to have to restart the whole level over. Like once I accidentally made it so I literally couldn't get from my one of my, what's the freaking word, outposts or whatever, to the castle stronghold, because I had built all along the edges of that square, or I'd built along, it was on one edge of the map. I had built along two edges of the square. I had the path going up through the upper part, but I had to sell that patch, and it was the only one I could sell. So I just had to, when I was getting very near the end, I had to sell the whole thing. And yeah, and when you sell something, the stuff that it was producing obviously doesn't count toward your goal anymore. But it's relatively easy if you just put like one house and one hunting field or one logging camp or mine, if there is that, and then fill up the rest with windmills, or put like one windmill and one logging camp and fill up the rest with houses or something. It's pretty easy to get a very high value for selling back things. So yeah, I think, do you guys have any questions? I'm kind of running out of things to do. It's a pretty interesting game, I think. I just had a hard time being good at it.
I think
which
I'm
hurt
good.
my progress in story mode.
It reminds me a lot of Carcassonne.
A little bit. Carcassonne doesn't have that much improvement on stuff you've already built unless you have a bunch of expansions, I think.
Right.
But I get the idea you're going for.
Yeah. Anyway.
The dialogue that you get that's the hints of stuff to do is vaguely humorous. Usually. Sometimes it uses somewhat salty language, which is kind of interesting when you're in a little bit of an old-timey aesthetic.
Ye fuck it.
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
It's a fairly simple game with a lot of potential depth, I think. Would be a little bit better if there was a way to, if there was an undo button, or if you could like more clearly see your progress, or like what the goals for getting a gold on a stage were. Because it's not perfectly consistent. Like some stages you're expected to buy stuff, other stages you're expected to try to like buy stuff to sell, other stages you're expected to get by with like the absolute minimum number of plots of land available.
Let's see. And the price is $10, $9.99 on Steam.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, it sounds like it. All right. So sounds like that's about all we have on File Under Kingdom here. Be sure to tune in. Be sure to tune in after the break, as we'll be talking about Delta Light.